Good morning. I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of the Zoning and Planning Committee for Thursday, September 13th. My name is Jeremy Schrader, and I'm the chair of this committee. With me at the dais are Councilmember Reich, Councilmember Goodman, and Councilmember Gordon. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. We have 5 items on today's agenda, and we'll begin with the consent agenda. Item number 2 is the setting of a public hearing for our next regularly scheduled meeting on September 27th in order to consider a moratorium on the establishment of new tobacco product shops. Item 3 and 4 are the approving rezoning applications submitted by M Club Properties for the properties located at 1625 and 1627 Marshall Street Northeast to construct a new 4-story building. Item number 5 is the approving of the environmental assessment worksheet for the Gateway mixed-use development at 30 South 3rd Street. Are there any questions or comments from committee members on these items? Not with that, I will move items 2 through 5 for approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now move on to the quasi-judicial hearing portion of our agenda, which is the consideration of an appeal submitted by Robert Friedel on behalf of the city's Finance and Property Services Department regarding the decision of the City Planning Commission's condition of approval number 7 on the site plan review application. And we'll begin with the staff presentation.
Good morning, Chair Schrader, committee members. I'm Janelle Woodmeyer, Senior City Planner with CPED. To start with, I'll just give a brief overview of the project and then get into the specifics of the appeal, which is very specific since it's one condition. So this is related to the impound facility. The existing site is separated by Van White going through the center. We have Bassett Creek to the north. The existing building is adjacent to Colfax, where we have our main access, and then as you move east, that's where the storage areas are, and they extend to the west side of Van White. So the proposed changes include changing that main access to be off of Van White Memorial Boulevard. The new building would then be oriented to Van White. You have your public parking areas to the west and north of the building. And then kind of along the south, east of the building, you have storage areas, and then where it connects underneath the Van White Bridge, you have additional storage that's on the south side here. The proposal is to reduce the size of the impound lot. So this remainder area is intended to then be available for redevelopment. So that's the general proposal for the appeal. The site plan review requirements include a standard that requires all on-site parking to be located within 50 feet of an on-site tree. So that would include the vehicle storage areas. And the proposal, so this is what was presented to the Planning Commission, and the landscape plan was on multiple sheets, so I've tried to consolidate them here. So on the top you have the east side of Van White, and then on the bottom you have west of Van White. So the storage areas mostly did not meet this standard, so they requested alternative compliance. Staff did recommend that alternative compliance be granted. The applicant had noted that there's some security issues with having trees throughout the storage area. It hinders some visibility. And they are proposing a lot of landscaping along Van White Memorial Boulevard and along the creek, and that helps reduce visibility of those storage areas from the public views, as well as reducing stormwater runoff to the creek. So that was the alternative that was proposed. One of the purposes of the tree standard in parking lots is to reduce the urban heat island effect. And the Planning Commission was concerned that with these large vehicle storage areas that is going to have a very large impact. So they added a condition that the west side, that west storage area, be subject to this requirement. And they limited it just to the west side because that area is more for overflow parking when you have your snow emergencies and the spring and fall sweeps, whereas on the east side it's just more day-to-day. So the appeal is specific to that condition, and the reason it's been appealed is because the portion of the area that's required to be planted with trees is a Superfund cap site, and the capping was designed to prevent the water infiltration and subsequent disbursement of toxic tunnel tailings into the aquifer. So Bob Friddle can explain a little bit more about what that means, but this is the image that was submitted with the appeal to show where that capped area is, so that kind of rectangular space. They had illustrated on here what spacing of trees would be needed to meet that requirement, and all those circles with the X's in it are the trees that would be needed, but within that capped area. So the alternative proposed as part of this appeal is to locate them further north, kind of oriented along Van White, and then to an area where there's a screen of pine trees proposed, so just north of there. So that concludes my presentation. I can address any questions.
Sure, I have one question to start off. So I see the X's through the proposed trees, and yet I count additional trees on the top. Is the proposal to remove all the trees from the lower area and not just the rectangular area, or is it just the rectangular area and then additional trees to the north?
It would be limited to the rectangular area.
Okay.
So the trees to the north would be replacing the ones that couldn't be planted in the area to the south.
Great, thank you. All right, if there are no other questions, I will open up the hearing for the public. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll first give the applicant the opportunity to speak to the committee. Mr. Friedel? Or if you have another representative that would like to speak.
Sure, thank you. My name is Bob Friddle. I'm Director of Design and Construction for Facilities. Janelle covered things very well. Our proposed revision request relocates the trees to an area on site that is currently paved, and so we feel that the trees will continue to contribute to reduction of the heat island effect on site, and will be more easily accommodated in this area, and also provide additional screening from Van White to the area. We've also reviewed this with CPED, who has hopes of developing that area, and not gotten any objections from them. So other than that, I'm available to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Friedel. Are there any questions? All right. Seeing no one, I'll now open the hearing up to the public. Would any members of the public like to speak? Anyone interested in speaking on this issue? All right, last chance. All right, seeing no one, we're going to close the hearing. Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to move to grant the appeal. I think the alternative compliance is a really good solution. I'll note that we've been waiting the better part of 2 years to work through a site plan based on the community process that has been set up. So for a city project, it's almost unbelievable that they've been able to work with the Harrison neighborhood, the Bryn Mawr neighborhood, the Bassett Creek Valley Oversight Committee, multiple times with the neighbors to come up with the best site that the community supports. Our staff was even at the Bryn Mawr neighborhood meeting again last night, and that's not the first time they've been there. So I think the city staff have done an amazing job to get to this point. I feel like this is a little bit nitpicky, and I think the alternative compliance is a really good solution, especially because most people would come in for alternative compliance and reduce the number of trees. These guys are just simply saying, let's put them in an area where they'll actually grow. So kudos to Public Works for the alternative compliance, and a thank you to staff for recommending it. I move approval of the appeal.
All right, I just also want to add my kudos to the staff to have alternative compliance. I think this makes a lot of sense, and thank you for the extra work to do that. Not seeing anyone else, Councilmember Goodman's motion is before us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. That motion carries, and seeing no further business before us at this time, we are adjourned.